Hey everybody, Derek Brown here with another Insider Sax Stuff episode where I talk about all things saxophone related, things that I've learned throughout my career as a saxophonist. And today I'm going to be talking about health and safety with the saxophone. Now this is something, yes, even when I was in middle school or high school, I would groan and I would like, yeah, whatever, okay. But this is the kind of thing where anybody that plays an instrument, we're doing things over and over and over and over if we're practicing like we should be. And if you do something slightly wrong, it might not hurt right away, but over time, it's going to be really detrimental to your health. And so these are some things where, yeah, if you're young, you might feel like, I'm invincible, I've never had anything like that happen before, or it only hurts sometimes when I do this, or it doesn't hurt very much. If there's any little hint of pain here or there when you're playing or practicing, you really want to deal with that right away, because like I said, if you're doing years of that over and over, no matter what, if it's a little bit of pain, it's going to turn into something major. And I've had a couple things happen to me over the years that I'll talk about. But I would say there's two main things that affect most sax players. And I would say that is the neck from the weight of the saxophone on the harness or neck strap. And then the other area is the throat, and that's from blowing incorrectly. And so I'm going to address those things and then a couple of kind of quirky things that I've had to deal with doing this weird beatbox sax style that I'll mention at the end. So as far as the neck, first of all, those neck straps, those dinky little neck straps that come free with your saxophone, those things are no good. There's zero padding on them. They just sit really high on your neck, and that's just going to, over time, just cause you to, just to have bad formation of the neck, and it's just going to really hurt, just putting so much weight on your neck and not doing anything to alleviate that. So the next step is, at the very least, get a neck strap with some padding on it. And, there's some different types of padding, like some foam, or this, like this Just Joe's strap, which is great. It has this kind of special gel inside. I also like this strap because the gel doesn't connect in the middle, and so it puts a little bit more of the weight on the outside of the spine, not directly on the middle of the spine. So that's one thing. That's kind of the basic way to do it. Then a lot of people, if that's not good enough, or just depending on how much you perform, a lot of people then go on to like a sax harness, which comes over, wraps around your shoulders and your back, connects here, and that definitely alleviates the weight from the neck. Some people have mentioned, kind of having some weird back things, or one thing for me is just if it's just too tight, it promotes, maybe not as healthy breathing. Another thing is that the harnesses might be really close. It kind of holds your sax in close, and you don't have quite as much freedom to move around. But if that's a thing where you're having some neck issues, and it's becoming serious, no question, go to a harness. You can deal with those other things, and I think that would be huge. I've seen like the Van Doren sax thing that has the belt. Also, BG makes a great sax harness that I used to do a little bit, that can hook onto your belt, either wraps around the belt and goes up over the shoulders, and so it puts the weight on the shoulders but not the neck. And I think your shoulders can handle the weight of the sax much more than just the neck. Now, one other thing I really like is this Balam neck strap, and this is sold by Boston Sax Shop. My good friend Jack Finucane sells these in the US, and this thing's really cool. It looks like a normal neck strap, and I'll admit I do think about looks sometimes with the back strap, and so I do like the fact that it does look like a somewhat normal neck strap. But you'll notice a couple things. First of all, the back, you see it kind of go around a little bit, and then the biggest thing you might notice is that it's connected only by string in the back. Now you would think, oh, I don't want that on my neck. But the thing is, this doesn't put weight on your neck because this is actually aluminum inside. So these are actually hard, and you form-fit them around your shoulders. Think of a marching marching snare drum, and they have these stiff harnesses that go over here. So it's not putting weight around the neck, and definitely not up here in the middle, but on the sides, and it's like these, once you fold, and it takes some, you know, definitely a lot of shaping to get it right for a few days. But once you get that, and particularly if you get it tighter, so it's just really form-fitted, that thing doesn't put almost any weight on the neck at all. It just squeezes around the shoulders. And yes, your shoulders might get a little bit tired. It's just a little bit different. But that's something. Also, there are some other neck straps, I know BG makes them, that just sit a little bit lower on your neck. Not so high, so that it's, you know, the higher up, the more pressure it is putting forward. If it can go lower, the more it can go evenly around the back. And that's just going to be good long term. Once again, if you're even just having any little bit of neck stuff at all, that's not going to go away, and it's just going to get worse. Another thing I like to do, now this just depends on your height and where you're practicing, is with the tenor, I'm a tall guy, so maybe a shorter person, this will work well with alto, but I like to rest this part of the tenor just on a hard chair that I'm playing. Sometimes I put a couple of cushions underneath, and then it's the perfect height. And then I just can practice like that with, I'll still wear a neck strap, but it's not bearing down on my body at all. Moving on to the throat. This is something that I have many times I have avoided worrying about, and then I have an issue where my throat gets sore after practicing for a while, and then I have to kind of deal with it. And then it gets sore, I forget about those good habits, and then it gets sore and so forth, and it just kind of goes on. And I remember as a kid hearing my teachers so many times talk about long tones, and particularly the idea of breathing from the diaphragm. That is so key, and you could have series of tutorials, lessons, just about breathing and just about long tones. I'm just going to do a very abbreviated version, but if you're blowing from up here, you're going to be tightening your throat. You're also just going to have a very weak sound. But blowing from here over time, you're going to notice your throat starting to constrict. You're going to start to notice pain in your playing just a little bit. That's going to turn into a lot. You need to be breathing in and blowing out deep from within the diaphragm. And the nice thing about using the diaphragm is when you fill it up, its natural state is closed. It's coming back. And so you fill it up with air, and then it's kind of almost like you just release. And then you're playing the saxophone. It's just blowing on its own. So you're not having to force. It's like you don't want to be blowing into the saxophone. You want to be breathing into the saxophone. Deep from within. And you want to think lots of air, open throat. Now, how do you work on this? The best way, maybe the only way, is through long tones. This is one of those things where the teacher would say, do long tones every day, and I'd be like, yeah, right, yeah, whatever. They slow me down. I want to work on my scales and my licks. But then I would start having, I would notice over time that I'm breathing wrong, and then I would actually have to sit down. I remember in college and be like, okay, I got to do this long tone thing. I got to figure this out because it's not, I have pain here. I got to figure this out. And so, but long tones are even better than just health and safety. It helps you get a better tone because all you're doing is listening to your tone, listening to evenness of tone. You can work on dynamics. You can work on so many things with your sound and breathing. It's just, long tones are so good. Maybe I'll have another episode on that. But do your long tones. Practice breathing from the diaphragm. So, you know, the thing where you count for 4 and then blow for 8. And I could have gone much longer. I probably should have, maybe out for 12. But maybe doing things like you crescendo and then decrescendo to as soft as you can. But really focus on breathing from the diaphragm. Make sure this is totally relaxed and open, not constricted. That is such a problem for young people, and then it just becomes a bad habit. So breathing the throat. So take care of that. Now, some other things. One thing that has affected me, particularly when I was out of grad school and I was teaching for 6 years, I started getting tension in my fingers, just playing too tightly, pressing too hardly, being tense, not having the saxophone at the correct, most natural angle. And when I noticed it was a problem was when it actually started going into my legs and my feet starting getting tense and tired. And that is a clear sign something's wrong. That was when I got into Alexander technique, which is this idea of really focusing on your core and your posture. And this idea of everything you do should be totally natural and use the minimum amount of energy and movement. So if you're playing and your head's like this, fix that. You want your head to be natural. You want it to be normal. If your right hand is like, like that, fix it. Maybe you want to play like this. If you're doing anything out of the normal, correct posture of your hands and you want to just bring up your hands and play like this. If your fingers are really bending like that way, fix it. Just press normal movement. Anything other than that over time will get bad. Will start to harm you over time. And so there's also things, of course, like meditation, breathing exercises. But look into Alexander technique if you're struggling with tension at all, and just watch that. If you know that there's something tense, it's going to be a problem later on. A couple other things. I have an issue with my teeth. I know some sax players, a lot of sax players, that have an issue of their lower lip, their teeth biting into their lower lip. Especially I know a lot of classical saxophonists because the embouchure is more firm. Jazz, if you're having that problem, I'd be really surprised. You want to have a loose embouchure for jazz. Roll that lip out and loose, baby. But yeah, some people often will play, and I used to do this. I would fold paper. You could get some kind of like denture stuff to put on your teeth, and that just kind of protects it. If you always have to do it, maybe you have an issue of biting a little bit too hard, or maybe you have abnormally sharp teeth, and you could deal with that in different ways. That's one thing. I now, doing this beatbox sax stuff, have the opposite problem. I have a problem with my upper teeth, and that is because my upper teeth are what is touching the mouthpiece. And yes, I always have pads on the mouthpiece, little sticker pads. I use these BG mouthpiece pads and put those on there. Sometimes I even put 2 of them on there. If you have a metal mouthpiece, you gotta have some kind of pad. But even a hard rubber mouthpiece, I think it's nice having just a little bit of that pad. You can replace it when if you start to tear through it. But still, with all the ring stuff I'm doing, if you just look at the sax, it's shaking a little bit. Or if you add the stomping, I'm vibrating. My body is vibrating against that mouthpiece, and I don't notice it unless I'm doing it for a while. And so as much as I can when I practice, I actually bought just some football mouth guards. The whole thing, you stick it in boiling water, take it out. And now a football mouth guard is going to be way too big for what I need. I only need to protect these teeth. And so I want to be able to stay on like this when I'm not playing. And I even made a smaller one. It's a little bit gross. It's kind of turning yellow. I need to wash it a little more. And boom, it's right there. Yes, it would be weird if I had to talk with this. I can always take it out. But when I'm practicing, this thing is good. And I don't feel any of that. Totally takes away that abrasion against the teeth. So using a mouth guard, no shame there. I do it. And lastly, and I don't have a solution for this, just be prepared if you work on slap tonguing a lot. Some of you may have seen my Instagram or Facebook photos that I've released of a bloody mouthpiece. It looks worse than it is. It's usually just like maybe a couple of spots where the corners of the reed are. And that's just from your tongue scraping so much doing slap tonguing. The tongue is a fast healing part of the fastest healing part of the body, so it's not a big deal. It'll be good by the next day, and usually then it'll be strengthened and you don't have an issue. For me, it's if I have a long traveling couple of days and then hit the slap tonguing really hard. The other thing is with these other double tonguing techniques that I talk about in some of my tutorials, where you slide the tongue above and below the reed, your tongue is constantly scraping. That will hurt. I haven't had it bleed from that. Actually, I have had it bleed from that. It'll hurt like as you do that for a couple hours or more. But over time, your tongue will be solid, just like a guitar player getting calluses on the fingers. Okay, if you made it this far, congratulations. You care about your health. That's awesome. So take care of these things before any of it gets really serious. That's my little bit on health and safety. You never have to hear from me again about that. Thank you, guys. I hope to see you soon. Subscribe if you like these videos and check out my other series. And hopefully I'll see you soon somewhere in the US or around the world. Take care. Bye.